A deadly scene at a city crosswalk. An elderly woman is struck by a dump truck and killed.
Tonight, eyewitness accounts and the efforts to save her. The investigation underway. Good evening. The victim has been identified as an 81-year-old woman.
The tragic incident captured on camera. Police trying to determine exactly what happened. CTV's Sean Leathong joins us live from the scene tonight at Bathurst and Wilson. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Raheem, a sad incident here today. The woman crossing at the crosswalk when she was struck and killed, something that is clearly evident in the security footage that we've acquired. You can see both the woman and the truck waiting at the intersection. The woman begins to cross at nearly the same time as the truck begins turning right. We paused before the impact that caused the death of this woman. Police arrived quickly as pedestrians and first responders tried to help the woman. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the truck remained on the scene, cooperating with police and speaking briefly with CP24.
Yeah, I can take right. I check the blind spot. I don't know.
According to police, the pedestrian was struck at 10:44 this morning at the off-ramp from the 401 exiting onto Wilson near Bathurst.
It is reported that an 81-year-old female was walking through the crosswalk northbound on Wilson Avenue when she was struck by a right-turning dump truck behind me.
In the video, the truck is turning right on a red light. The woman begins to cross before the light had turned green, but it appears that the intersection has an advanced walk signal.
There has to be something done here.
JB Martito Dacchiato owns a nearby restaurant and says this crosswalk needs more safety features.
Well, put a stop on red sign for sure, like stop and look.
She says that the woman in the video looks like many of the customers in her restaurant.
They just wanted to get home safely, you know, and they didn't today.
The identity of the woman has not been released, and no word on any possible charges. Now you can see the scene is clear as Wilson is moving normally. Now, this is also the second time a woman has been hit by a dump truck in the city, the other happening in the East End this past Thursday. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Raheem, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. We turn to dramatic footage of a suspected arson in Brampton. Security footage captures two men in hoodies run from a home just as smoke and flames erupt from the residence. Police and fire officials now trying to get to the bottom of what unfolded early this morning. CTV's John Musselman joins us live from the scene near Queen and Kennedy in Brampton. John.
Hi, Raheem. Yes, it's a very detailed security video. It shows what happened before this fire started and everything that happened afterwards, and it is video that's being reviewed by Peel Regional Police and Brampton fire officials. Watch the left side of your screen. You will notice a bright flash inside the enclosed front porch. Then, a few seconds later, two men in hoodies run out from the side of the house, then calmly walk away on the sidewalk. About 20 seconds later, a man who lives in the home comes out the front door as thick smoke begins to build. It's just a matter of minutes and the front of the home is fully engulfed. You will see Peel Regional Police arrive first to help the man who is now out on the street. Brampton firefighters arrive soon after and they're able to bring the fire under control. Neighbors say it all happened very quickly.
There was a lot of smoke coming out through the window. I didn't see the fire, and then my husband seen the firemen punching out the top window.
We got woken up around 1:15 by one officer and one fireman banging on our door to come out because there was a fire.
Peel Police have a copy of this home security video captured by the neighbor's camera, and they are working with Brampton fire officials in this investigation. The Ontario Fire Marshal has also been notified.
It's too early to comment. We'll have our investigators attend the scene here this morning, and we've notified the Office of the Fire Marshal. We're working with Peel Regional Police right now to transition from the kind of response side to the circumstances, origin, cause, and whatnot related to this incident.
The fire started just before 1 a.m. on Hillcrest Avenue. That's near Queen Street East and Kennedy Road in Brampton. A neighbor tells CTV News that the man who lives in the house asked if he could review security camera footage from a few days ago, telling his neighbor that someone attempted to break into the home. He wanted to see if the camera picked up anything. The neighbor says it didn't show any suspects. It's believed the man living in the home is a tenant. He was treated for minor injuries and released from hospital. And there's extensive damage to this home. Really just the shell of the home remains. The investigation continues. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. Michelle, back inside to you.
Thank you, John. Also tonight, unjustified and unnecessary. Canadian leaders react to U.S. President Trump's latest blow. Prime Minister Trudeau warns of a strong response, while Premier Ford delivers a sharp message directly to Americans in the U.S. Capitol.
But first, to a developing story. Winter-weary residents are watching closely. Another significant snowfall is on the way. Road crews are getting ready. Snow, ice pellets, and freezing rain could all be in the cards. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison for a closer look at what we're expecting. Lindsay, it's by all accounts shaping up to be a pretty significant weather event.
Yeah, Raheem, this could end up being our most significant snow of the season so far. And that's twice now in 1 week that we have said that. Here's what's new. Environment Canada just recently issuing a snowfall warning for areas as far south as Markham, Richmond Hill, Vaughan, Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, and Oshawa. In these areas, 15 to 25 centimeters of snow is going to be possible by Thursday. It's still a special weather statement for us in the city of Toronto, but 15 centimeters of snow going to be possible locally as well. Here's what to expect. In addition to the heavy wet snow, strong winds, some mixing is anticipated in some areas too. And yes, this is going to impact 2 commutes. Not a whole lot happening on the satellite and radar now. It is temperature-wise about -4 degrees in Hamilton. It feels colder than that, and we're forecasting a low tonight of -10 degrees. We'll break down everything you need to know, the precipitation types and the timing of tomorrow's storm coming up. For now, Raheem, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. To City Hall now, where billions of dollars of taxpayer money is up for debate tonight as Council deliberates the budget.
At stake is how much you'll pay in property taxes in exchange for city services that are delivered. Talks have been ongoing all day, and they continue this evening. CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us from the Council chamber. What's the latest? What's happening, Natalie?
Hi, Michelle. The debate continues at this hour. Toronto taxpayers set to find out tonight exactly how much more they will be paying this year after a day of discussion over how $19 billion will be spent.
Making her case for a second straight tax hike, Mayor Olivia Chow called on her colleagues to support her big budget.
The 2025 budget is rebuilding our city together.
The spending plan before council features a TTC fare freeze, expanded student nutrition programs, increased library hours, and more traffic wardens.
We've built a budget here that is a caring budget. It meets the challenges that the city faces.
But it comes at a cost. A 6.9% residential property tax hike that would cost the average homeowner $268 more this year, on the heels of a 9.5% increase last year.
When property taxes were increased by 10%, Mayor Chow said that it was because of the fiscal hole she inherited. Unfortunately, it seems like she spent the last year digging her own hole, and now she needs taxpayers' help to get out of it.
The mayor grilled by her critics on the need to raise taxes.
Why can we not reduce this budget and hold the line?
This budget is fiscally responsible.
It comes as council and all of Canada brace for the economic impacts of U.S. tariffs. The mayor pitching a plan today to remove Tesla from a list of electric vehicles eligible for grants for Toronto taxi drivers.
For the next 4 years at least, we're going to face constant uncertainty and threats, I expect, from Mr. Trump and perhaps Mr. Musk.
I don't suggest that City Hall can solve all the problems when it comes to the trade war with the U.S., but there are things that we can do to make ourselves more competitive.
Councillor Brad Bradford, meanwhile, looking to combat the looming trade war with a 25% property tax cut for industry and small business, funded through rainy day reserves.
This is not just a rainy day. This is an economic hurricane.
One should not take money from a stabilization reserve.
So just to be clear, that do you support the spirit of the tax cut if it can be funded?
Oh gosh, no.
Thank you.
The fate of Toronto tax dollars gets decided in this chamber today.
And a few significant votes have happened just in the last few minutes here in the chamber. Councillor Bradford's attempt to cut the tax rate for industry and small business did not pass. There was also about $3 million of wiggle room built into the budget. City Council has approved a suite of smaller programs to spend that money on, everything from ravine restoration to pickleball programs. The tax rate debate is happening now. We'll bring you the latest tonight at 11:30. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. And there there was a short disruption of the budget debate this afternoon as a few masked protesters pushed their way onto council floor. They yelled about being unhappy with policing of the unhoused and poor people in the city. One of them also unfurled a Palestinian flag. The meeting was paused as the protesters were removed from the chamber.
A Toronto police officer has been injured while responding to a call in North York. Officers were called to the area of Bathurst and Lawrence shortly before 8:30 a.m. for reports of a man being threatened. When they arrived, they say the suspect became violent. The suspect and an officer were both taken to hospital as a result of the incident. The suspect suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries, while the officer suffered minor injuries.
We've had a tough 24 hours. We've been receiving briefings on 8 officers that have experienced injuries as a result of some of their frontline work. And it speaks to the incredible dedication of our members and incredible challenging circumstances that they work under. And, this morning was a sobering moment for us and for me as the chief when I am being briefed on the injuries our officers are experiencing.
So far, there has been no word on possible charges in connection with the incident. The SIU has not invoked its mandate.
To the Ontario provincial election campaign, and tonight, Doug Ford is in Washington promoting his trade agenda.
It comes as Ontario deals with the imposition of 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports to the U.S. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has more on the fallout and what the other candidates are saying.
Addressing the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington, Doug Ford describes what he sees as an unnecessary trade war between close friends.
A lot of the world is sitting back and laughing, and I'll tell you who's sitting back and laughing is China.
Stressing to the room of mostly American-based Canadian business leaders.
Please get the message to President Trump. This is not a good idea for both countries.
With no direct line to the unpredictable president, Ford insists this visit with 2 days of meetings isn't futile.
The Canadian people want us here, not just Ontarians.
Though the lines between provincial leader and re-election candidate are a little blurred.
I am the Premier of Ontario. We're in an election mode right now.
The Progressive Conservative Party's paying for this mid-campaign southern swing with another planned later this month. Other party leaders have criticized Ford's trip and his election call in the middle of a tariff fight. Today, those leaders were making promises to appeal to young people and their parents. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie is promising more cash for post-secondary institutions.
We know that they're funded to half the rate that other colleges and universities in other provinces are.
Forcing many schools to cancel or scale back programs. Crombie also wants to improve the Ontario Student Assistance Program.
We're eliminating the interest payment on it. We're increasing the threshold at which it has to be paid back.
While a PC government commissioned report recommended ending a tuition freeze that's been in place since 2019, Crombie and NDP leader Marit Stiles agree.
It's not a time to raise tuition on hardworking, struggling Ontario families.
Offering other education relief.
We're going to turn student loans into grants, and we're going to cut interest on existing student loans.
Neither the NDP nor the Liberals have said how much more funding they're proposing for colleges and universities.
I like pink too.
Green leader Mike Schreiner spent the day in Kitchener shoring up support for his deputy Ashlyn Clancy.
She listens to her constituents, and then she brings solutions to Queen's Park, like her bill to protect renters, which came directly from people in this riding.
Schreiner will unveil his party's full platform in Toronto Wednesday. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
The federal privacy watchdog is investigating a cyber breach that affected school boards across Canada, including in Toronto. The U.S.-based company that provides the affected software says it experienced a data breach between December 22nd and December 28th of last year. Canada's privacy czar says his investigation is being launched after Power School provided him with a breach report. There was also a complaint about the incident. The Toronto District School Board said last month that students' addresses, health card numbers, emergency contacts, and some medical information may have been stolen in the breach.
More now on those U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs that will take effect on March 12th. Tonight, the White House says the 25% steel tariffs would stack on top of other levies on Canadian goods, leading to a total 50% tariff.
The Prime Minister said today Canada will respond. Justin Trudeau is in Paris, where he continues to talk trade with European allies. CTV's Rachel Aiello has the details.
Tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum would be entirely unjustified.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today slamming U.S. President Donald Trump's new steel and aluminum tariffs, stopping short of committing to a dollar-for-dollar retaliatory response.
If it comes to that, our response, of course, will be firm and clear.
It's a big deal. This is the beginning of making America rich again.
Trump signed an executive order that would impose 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, without exceptions. Canada did retaliate back in 2018, when similar measures were imposed during the NAFTA renegotiations before receiving a carve-out.
We will be working with the American administration over the coming weeks to highlight the negative impacts on Americans and Canadians of these unacceptable tariffs.
That work with the Americans began today at the summit that brought Trudeau and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance into the same room.
Why are you slapping tariffs? Are you serious about making Canada the 51st state, sir?
According to a senior government source, Trudeau and Vance briefly spoke, and the Prime Minister brought up how steel tariffs would impact Ohio, the Vice President's home state. With Canada-U.S. tensions strained, Trudeau said he plans to work with other world leaders who have also been impacted by Trump's latest trade action, such as the European Union, which has vowed the U.S. president's tariffs will not go unanswered. The Prime Minister has already been interacting with some of these allies on the sidelines of the summit, and others he may see tomorrow when he travels to Brussels. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Paris.
The federal government has chosen a former senior RCMP officer to be Canada's point person on fighting the spread of fentanyl. Kevin Brosseau's role will include working with American counterparts to accelerate Canada's efforts to disrupt and dismantle the illicit trade of the drug. It is a main reason U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening tariffs on all Canadian goods. Brosseau is a 20-year veteran of the RCMP, serving as a deputy commissioner and the senior Mountie in Manitoba.
New research by the Canadian Chamber of Commerce shows which cities will be hit hardest by across-the-board U.S. tariffs. St. John, New Brunswick is the most vulnerable city because it's home to the largest crude oil refinery in Canada. Calgary is the second most exposed city because it also exports oil and natural gas to the U.S. Windsor is the third most vulnerable. Cities in southwestern Ontario are exposed because they're home to Canada's automotive and parts manufacturing sector. The report also pointed to Hamilton because it is a major producer of steel.
In the Middle East, there are growing concerns about the fate of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Today, the Israeli Prime Minister declared the truce will end and fighting would resume if the scheduled release of 3 more hostages does not happen by midday Saturday. Following that ultimatum, Hamas issued a statement renewing its commitment to the ceasefire and accusing Israel of jeopardizing the deal. The Israeli military has now been ordered to gather troops inside and around Gaza and deploy additional forces to Israel's south. On Monday, Hamas said it would not free any more hostages until further notice after accusing Israel of violating the ceasefire. Israel accused the Hamas of violating the truce by refusing to free the hostages.
Donald Trump hosted Jordan's King Abdullah II at the White House today, and the U.S. president tried to clarify some details of his controversial plan to take over Gaza.
We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it. We're going to get it going eventually, where a lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people in the Middle East, but I think it can be a diamond. It can be an absolute tremendous asset for the Middle East.
When asked under what authority America would take Gaza, Trump simply answered U.S. authority. So far, he has not offered any explanation of what his plans are if the more than 2 million people who live in Gaza resist efforts to relocate them.
Coming up on CTV News, millions of Ontarians without a family doctor and plenty of promises to fix it. We examine one of the key issues in the campaign trail and what the candidates are pledging to do about the crisis in health care.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, for some drivers who are considering an electric car, their biggest concern is how they'll work in cold weather. A new test by CTV and CAA found that many electric cars dramatically reduce their range during winter driving. The results are just ahead.
So if our incoming low pressure system tracks a little further to the north, we're going to tap into some milder air, and that would mean more in the way of mixed precipitation. For tomorrow, though, this is mainly a snow event, and heads up, it begins in the afternoon and then certainly continues into the evening. If you don't have to be out on the roads, I suggest you stay home, avoid any non-essential travel, because this is what could be left behind. Heavy amounts of snow will break it all down for you coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
The number of electric vehicles sold in Canada is now approaching 10%, but some consumers aren't ready to make the switch.
A major concern for some drivers is how the range of electric vehicles is affected when the weather turns cold. Pat Foran has new test results on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Raheem and Michelle. Many drivers worry about frigid Canadian winters and buying an electric car. In a road test, CTV Ottawa partnered with CAA to find out how electric cars perform. The results found some lose almost 40% of their range in chilly weather.
And we're off. We're going to drive this car until it's dead.
CTV's Tyler Fleming joined CAA and other testers to drive 14 all-electric vehicles from Ottawa to Mount Tremblant to see if they could make the 355-kilometer trip. The estimated range for EVs can drop quickly depending on cold weather and snowy roads.
What we wanted to get to the root of was what it was like, to drive an EV until it got to zero, and how long would it take.
As they headed towards their destination, EV started to run out of battery power. This one had 5%, then 432.
Now at 1% with 3 kilometers of range left.
When the test was done, there was clear evidence EVs don't go as far in cold weather.
Driving in temperatures between -7 and -15, on average, these vehicles drop anywhere between 14 and 39%.
The EVs with the longest winter range were the Chevrolet Silverado EV, Tesla Model 3, and the Polestar 2. Those with the shortest, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, Toyota BZ4X, and Volvo XC40 Recharge. CAA says it's important for anyone buying an EV to know the estimated range will be lower in the winter.
Making the jump to an electric vehicle is worrying because the range that they see on that sticker is likely not going to be the range that they get in the winter, and we're a winter nation.
The road test also highlighted the need for more charging stations.
We're out in the middle of almost nowhere.
CAA also wanted to see which EVs charge the fastest in 15 minutes. While some could only add 20 kilometers, the Tesla Model 3 was first with 205 kilometers added, followed by the Chevrolet Silverado and Equinox. The bottom line, if you're planning on buying an EV, do your homework.
If long winter trips is something that they're interested in and they're interested in an electric vehicle, shop around because there's some big differences.
And when buying an EV, it really depends on the kind of driving you plan to do. If you take a lot of long road trips, you'll want that extended range. But if you plan to stay close to the city, range anxiety may not be an issue. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
And all this talk of winter weather, driving conditions is quite appropriate because we have a big storm heading our way. It's clear right now, but Environment Canada has just issued a snowfall warning, which we know that means it's going to happen.
And it's a stark difference from what we saw today, right? Today was actually beautiful. Plenty of sunshine. It felt nice, but short-lived.
At the risk of sounding cliche, it was the calm before the storm, Raheem. And it's true. We are now under a snowfall warning in the city of Toronto. This issued just about 10 minutes ago. And that is calling for about 15 centimeters here locally. It's a significant amount of snow for the city, and then surrounding areas could get even more than that. We've got a lot to talk about about, so let's get right to it. Here's a look at the current satellite and radar, and that snow that you see at the bottom of the screen, that's actually not this incoming storm. That one misses us. It's the next one, a Texas low that's going to make its way into southern Ontario and bring us the snow, potentially some freezing rain, likely some ice pellets, and then in some communities, some rain. But here's that snowfall warning. So it includes Toronto, it includes Halton Hills, Burlington, Mississauga, Oakville, and the city of Hamilton. I already mentioned some of the other areas included in this too. It extends into Peterborough, Barrie, and in through parts of Muskoka as well. 15 to 25 centimeters of snow is going to be possible for some areas north of the GTA, and some areas could also end up picking up 30 to even 40 centimeters of snow by the time all is said and done. It's a widespread area that's going to be impacted by this high impact storm. Now, I just want to pause this here for a second. There's your Wednesday morning. A little bit of lake effect snow going to be possible for the west end of the GTA, but that's just the appetizer. The main event is going to come late afternoon and early evening. The heaviest snow is likely to fall Wednesday night, and at this point we're talking in some areas 2 to 4 centimeters of snow per hour. Watch the bottom of the screen. This is where we see the mixing line. Maybe in Niagara Falls, you're going to see more in the way of rain than you are to see snow. And that pink line there, freezing rain, ice pellets, possible right along the shoreline of Lake Erie, but also Lake Ontario. If you are joining us from downtown Toronto, the closer you are to the shoreline of Lake Ontario, perhaps the more likely you are to see rain at times. This would happen overnight as opposed to during the nighttime hours Wednesday. And part of the reason for this, the temperature rising to about 1 degree by the time we're waking up on Thursday morning. As we're waking up on Thursday morning, this storm is starting to depart. Flurries are still going to be likely behind it. And yes, we're going to have we assume a whole lot of snow to shovel in the morning, and a reminder that this is heavy, wet snow, so you'll want to take care. And I have no doubt that the plows are going to be working overtime to get the roads ready. I want to mention the winds because this is something different from the weekend as well. We had that beautiful falling snow on Saturday night. This time the winds are going to be quite strong. First coming out of the east, and then Thursday we're going to tap into a westerly and northwesterly wind. That could lead to a few snow squalls. It's also going to send our temperature plummeting, much like tonight. We're forecasting a low of minus 10 degrees, wind chill minus 18. Tomorrow's high should be somewhere around minus 4. And again, we do have a chance of a few flurries in the morning or early afternoon before things really get going into tomorrow evening. Here is your 7-day forecast. So a high of 1 degree by Thursday. That snow tapering off, and then the temperature falls. So watch for some slushy areas starting to freeze. And again, heavy wet snow to deal with. Friday, we get a little bit of a break from the precipitation. Mix of sun and cloud, daytime high minus 5. Not bad for Valentine's Day, but look what's coming. Periods of snow in the forecast as we make our way into the weekend. So the next storm arriving Saturday, maybe 5 to 10 centimeters of snow with this one, and flurries following us into Sunday and the Family Day Monday. That's the forecast for now. Raheem, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. A country singer from Burlington, Ontario, and a Calgary-raised pop star are two of Canada's rising stars. And today, the musical talents lead the way at this year's Juno Awards nominations. It is estimated 2.5 million Ontarians are looking for a regular health care provider.
That's why voters are eyeing which provincial candidate will offer them the best chance to get a family doctor. We get more from CTV's health reporter, Pauline Chan.
Millions of Ontario residents are already struggling without regular access to a family doctor or nurse practitioner, and the Ontario Medical Association says the situation is getting worse.
4.4 million people are going to be without a family doctor by the end of next year.
And Dr. Dominic Novak says that has real-life consequences.
A few months ago, I was meeting with a person who hadn't been able to find a family doctor in over 6 years. They were bouncing around hospitals, emergency rooms, pharmacies, walk-in clinics, ended up having a delayed, completely preventable breast cancer diagnosis in the emergency room.
Family physicians have become a key topic in the Ontario election campaign. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie is promising to spend $3.1 billion to hire 3,100 new family doctors by 2029. Crombie calls it the single most important priority of an Ontario Liberal government. She's also promising to boost the number of internationally trained family doctors and the use of fax machines and make appointments available on evenings and weekends. 2 days before the election was called, Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives announced $1.4 billion to help connect every Ontarian with a primary care provider by spring of 2026. They're also promising 305 primary care teams for Ontario and putting $1.8 billion towards that. Merritt Stiles NDP are promising to put $4 billion towards hiring 3,500 new physicians over the next 4 years, and similar to Crombie, she vows to ensure every resident has a primary care provider. And the Green Party is promising 3,500 new doctors for Ontario over the next 3 to 4 years. It also promises to decrease the 19 hours of administrative paperwork doctors are currently required to do and boost the numbers of nurses and PSWs in Ontario.
We have had population growth, we've had complexity, people are living longer and sicker, so the needs are different in our healthcare system right now.
The OMA is not endorsing any particular candidate, but says our healthcare system is complex and voters should make it a vital factor in how they vote. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
2 rising stars lead the pack as this year's Juno Award nominations were announced today. Pop singer Tate McRae is nominated in 5 categories, including Album of the Year, Single and Artist of the Year, as well as the viewer-voted Fan Choice Award. She goes up against Burlington's Josh Ross, who also has 5 noms. That is a personal Juno Awards milestone for the country singer. And Shawn Mendes and The Weeknd had 4 nominations each. The winners will be announced March 30th in Vancouver.
As Valentine's Day approaches, a new play is on stage about a single woman's experience. It's called Table for Two. CTV's Andrea Case met up with the show's playwright and star earlier today.
Akosia Amo-Adam takes in the set of her friend In's Choi's revised production of his groundbreaking play, Kim's Convenience. The two have a lot in common. Both York University theatre grads have plays they have written themselves and star in, currently on stages at Young Centre.
Yeah. It is like 2 very similar plays, I think. They're both funny, hilarious. The themes of immigration, family, integrating in Canadian culture, seen from a different lens.
Amo-Adam started working on her play Table for Two as part of a theatre training project 8 years ago. 17 rewrites later, including 7 by her friend Choi, it opens this week as a Soul Pepper and Obsidian Theatre co-production.
It's a story about a 35-year-old Ghanaian Canadian woman trying to find love in these Toronto streets, and she's having a hard time, She's
not alone.
Yes. This is why the play is necessary.
Given the choice of writing something dramatic or comedic, she went with the laughs.
It's funny. For me, it was really, really important to write a comedy because the bulk of my work in theater has been very heavy, dramatic, hard Black plays, which are necessary, and I'm grateful to have had an opportunity to tell those stories. But I told myself, if I'm writing something for me, it has to be funny, because I'm a goofball.
Amo-Adam is single, but open to finding that special someone.
There are blessings in being single, that it's not, being single is not a death sentence or an illness that needs to be cured.
Table for Two is in previews now and opens on Friday at the Young Centre in the Distillery District. Andrea Case, CTV News.
For generations, he was a familiar voice, a beloved presence inside Maple Leaf Gardens, a legend of Leafs history. After the break, remembering Paul Morris.
They just wanted to get home safely,
Updating our top stories, an 81-year-old woman did not survive after being struck by a dump truck today. Her identity has not been released. The driver remained on the scene and is cooperating with police. There's no word on any possible charges at this point.
It's too early to comment. We'll have our investigators attend the scene.
Fire officials are investigating a house fire in Brampton this morning. Flames erupted at a home shortly after 2 men were seen leaving the property. A man who lives there got out in time, and he was treated for minor injuries.
We make it in the United States. We don't need it to be made in Canada. We'll have the jobs. That's why Canada should be our 51st state.
The Canadian press is reporting Donald Trump's 25% tariffs on our steel and aluminum imports would be stacked on top of other levies on Canadian goods. So that would lead to a total 50% tariff on steel and aluminum. The duties are scheduled to take effect on March 12th.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
Canadian and U.S. shares held their own today, even as Washington moves ahead with tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Stocks were little changed in Canada and the U.S. in trading today. That's as investors around the world try to weigh the costs of U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to slap 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. His plan is frustrating trade partners. The Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, said Canada, quote, will stand up strongly and firmly against the U.S. levies. Ford CEO James Farley said the duties are creating, quote, cost and chaos for the automaker. He warned, quote, long-term, a 25% tariff across the Mexico and Canadian border would blow a hole in the U.S. industry that we have never seen. And it frankly gives free rein to South Korean and Japanese and European companies. The New York Times argues that massive Chinese overproduction of metals is the fundamental issue here. It says China doesn't export a lot of steel or aluminum directly to the U.S., but its vast mills sell to American allies like Canada and Mexico, which in turn export their own output to America. On the markets, the Canadian dollar was up. It changed hands at 70 cents US, up just over 1/10 cent. West Texas Intermediate oil traded at $73.32, up $1. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil, $58.69, up $1.51. And the TSX Composite ended at 25,631.83, down just over 27 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
For decades, his voice echoed inside Maple Leaf Gardens, thrilling countless hockey fans over the years.
Tonight, we remember Paul Morris, the longtime announcer for the team who passed away at the age of 86. CTV's Scott Lightfoot has more on his voice and the legacy he leaves behind.
Number 17, the captain, Wendell Clark.
For generations of Leaf fans, his was the voice that introduced the greats.
Toronto goal scored by number 14, Dave Keon. Assist, number 21, Boreas Salming.
And celebrated their greatest accomplishments.
Paul Morris is part of the Leaf history as much as Conn Smythe and anybody else.
Leafs historian Paul Patskew says Paul Morris was an integral part of the Toronto Maple Leafs for both fans and players alike.
When you go in the Maple Leaf Gardens for the first time, things you remember are the color, the white ice, and when you hear his voice.
Morris spent his entire career with the team, both doing technical work at Maple Leaf Gardens and for nearly 40 years being the Leafs' public address announcer, never missing a game between 1961 and 1999.
We'll now present the Stanley Cup to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
He was the man on the microphone the last time the Leafs won a Stanley Cup.
A number of years ago during the Stanley Cup playoffs, I remember one goal by Dave Keon, a winning goal that the crowd just stood up and yelled and screamed for 5 minutes, and it was deafening in here. And
despite his decades of devotion to the team, many fans didn't even know what he looked like.
But you never saw Paul Morris. He was like that man in the castle up there. You see, he just had that voice, that baritone voice, the way he was so nonchalant, but it was a memorable thing.
For some, that voice was a sign of what could be.
He was the voice of the soundtrack of hockey for me growing up.
Current Leafs announcer Mike Ross says Morris's style was meant to enhance the experience for fans.
His style was that of not wanting to overshadow the game. He never felt like he was bigger than the game. He was simply a conduit between the game and fans.
a face-off using that same 1931 puck.
Morris retired after the team moved into what was then the Air Canada Centre. He died last Thursday after a long illness. And while the man may be gone, his voice will live on. The team still uses his iconic period-ending announcement
Last minute of play in this period
during games against original six opponents. Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
In Montreal, Team Canada practiced again today before the inaugural Four Nations Face-Off tournament. And the lone Leaf on the squad says he's looking forward to puck drop.
I'm really excited. It should be a lot of fun to get after it. I mean, it's, trying to just get used to the practice and everything like that and your alignments as quick as possible. But I think when a game happens, your just instincts hit and, everything just kind of goes into the natural state.
Round robin play begins tomorrow with a matchup between Canada and Sweden. Richmond Hill's Jordan Binnington will get the start in net for Game 1. Canada plays the U.S. on Saturday. And today, American captain Austin Matthews was asked what it's going to be like playing against his Leafs teammate Mitch Marner.
Yeah, he's a special player. He's a great player. You look around at all these teams' rosters, there's a lot of firepower. So, it's competitive. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, I think, for the players and the fans. It'll be a little bit weird playing against, guys, teammates, close friends of mine that I've been playing with for the last 9 years. So it'll be interesting. But, in the end, I think we're all competitive. Everybody wants to win.
Matthews says he doesn't know if there really is any favorite to win the tournament. The USA's first game is Thursday against Finland. Meanwhile, the Leafs' William Nylander is suiting up for Sweden.
I'm playing against the best players tomorrow in the world on Team Canada. Obviously you're feeling some kind of, excited, a little nervous, of course. I mean, that's just natural, but that's how it is. And I like feeling like that. I think it's good.
And this is what the four teams will be playing for. The NHL revealed the trophy for the tournament today. The winners will also receive gold medals. The championship game is Thursday, February 20th.
The Toronto Scepters are back in action tonight, and they're getting a big boost with the return of Natalie Spooner. Last season's MVP will make her season debut after recovering from a knee injury suffered during last year's playoffs.
Quick touches, and they score!
Toronto hasn't played since February 1st when they beat Ottawa 4-2. This evening they host the defending champion Minnesota Frost. The Scepters are in fourth place with 19 points, one fewer than New York.
The Toronto Raptors have reportedly signed Brandon Ingram to a 3-year, $120 million contract extension. He has not played yet since being acquired in a trade last week.
And quick with the steal. Here's Grady. And Grady's shot, no. Abachi there. Two teams battling. Grady.
Toronto looks to end a 4-game losing streak this evening. They are visiting the Philadelphia 76ers. Key players R.J. Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, and Ingram are all out with injuries.
A destination at Union Station that won't cost you a dime. The transit hub has been transformed into an art gallery where anyone can venture through incredible works by Black artists. Stay with us.
Tonight, what's fueling $1 million surge of shoplifting supermarket staples?
It's really about higher prices, creating a black market.
The organized crime and what food thieves are getting a taste of later on CTV National News.
A reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hello to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Finally tonight, there is a colorful new addition greeting commuters traveling through Union Station.
The busy transit hub is featuring 2 public art exhibitions celebrating 7 black artists. CTV's Jessica Smith reports.
Great works of art in the Great Hall at Union Station. A new exhibition is all about celebrating black art, black artists, and the greater community.
I think that Union Station is such a, incredible hub. We have about more than 300,000 people that travel to the space every day, and it's such a space it's such a historical monument that talks about inclusion and exclusion.
There are 2 parts to the exhibition, one titled A Transit Through Time, featuring 6 artists.
I'm really grateful. I think it's unreal to me that I've been selected. I didn't expect this, so it's kind of it's just a really great experience.
And another titled Nothing More, Nothing Less by guest artist Jordan Sook.
I get to express myself in the most free and open way, get to express my community, but also to really speak to art as well. And I think it's something that is going to be great for the community, being able to walk through Union Station.
The work's also extending into other areas, making it accessible to all.
I want people to see the work and feel inspired and feel like the best version of themselves, and maybe even see themselves within the work. And I think that's really what it's about, is really finding a way to connect to the viewer in a way that is meaningful to them.
With each artist able to not only share their work, but personal journeys.
Art actually saved my life, and is really dear to me, so that's the reason why I'm a little bit sad, no, not sad, but I'm just emotional about this whole experience.
And sharing their work in February for Black History Month and beyond. Both exhibitions will remain free to the public and will be here at Union Station until August 2025. Jessica Smith, CTV News, Toronto.
It's a beautiful exhibit. Okay, let's get you caught up because we have a snowfall warning in effect. We're getting a significant dumping of snow, not tonight, but tomorrow night.
This time tomorrow, we're going to be really getting into the thick of it here. So, yeah, these advisories have been changing throughout the hour, but what is important to know is that the city of Toronto is under a snowfall warning. So, too, is much of the GTA. And in these areas that you see there in white, 15 centimeters of snow a possibility, 25 centimeters of snow also possible, especially areas north, Vaughan, Richmond Hill, and then in through Durham region. This is what we're dealing with. This is a computer model of what that system looks to do. It is going to be a bit of a snow event for us, that's for sure. Here's tomorrow at a glance. Morning is calm, flurries begin in the afternoon, and then the heavy snow moves in for the evening, overnight, and early part of Thursday. One more look at your 7-day forecast. A bit of a break on Friday. Next round of snow moves in for the weekend. So a heads up Saturday if you have travel plans for the family day long weekend. Looks like we're going to get another helping of snow. Raheem and Michelle.
Good weekend for winter sports. Okay, thank you so much, Lindsay. That's it for us, but you can catch Omar Sajidine tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Alman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.